is the question is not how I react, but what do we do? And my answer to that is head down.
I just couldn't resist playing that for you again. Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. When we come back, talking about a potential federal election and the effects, consequences, ramifications that's potentially going to have on a number of issues in this country. Join me. It's David Krayden broadcasting to you live. We'll be right back.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
I hope you all caught my broadcast, 2 broadcasts yesterday. Actually, I had 3 of them up at one time. And what a day. Because I anticipated, just to recapitulate, I anticipated my interview with Katie Pasitne. I think I'm finally pronouncing her last name right. At 11 o'clock Eastern time. And I'm desperately calling up Katie 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes before the broadcast. I even called her mom saying, do you know where Katie is? Well, it turns out Katie's on the phone getting the news that the Supreme Court will make a decision about whether or not to hear Universal Ostrich Farms' appeal of the decision by the CFIA to kill every last ostrich on that farm. Now, we've been watching this for quite some time. I'm hoping, of course, to get Katie's response Thursday morning, because they expect to have a decision. I just was looking this morning at the docket, Supreme Court of Canada. They expect to have a decision by 9:45 Eastern time. So that's 6:45 Pacific time. So by the time Katie gets up Thursday morning, she'll know. And I would say, she feels exactly like I do about this. Could go either way. Things have changed in the last 5 weeks, or 6 weeks, since that farm was invaded and occupied by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and its cohorts in the RCMP. Public opinion, I believe, has shifted decidedly in favor of the farm. And that's been in large part because of independent media that have gotten the truth out about what's been happening. Now, I want to share something with you because I found this absolutely fascinating. I want to share with it's going to pop up because you've always got to make sure you've always got to make sure you can find these things. And I'm going to share the screen. This is absolutely fascinating, folks. Absolutely fascinating. Have a look at this. Like literally. Oh, sorry. That's not the one I wanted. All right, that's the one I want. Sorry. To go into that one. Bear with me, folks. I've got so much screen sharing going on today. Yes, here we go. Like literally within hours of my interviewing Katie and reporting that the farm would be seeking to remove the Canadian Food Inspection from the farm for abrogating and breaching the terms of the Supreme Court order, CFIA is up with another update on Halloween, October 31st, 2025. The CFIA is up with another update. I find this absolutely fascinating. And Katie, I don't believe has read this she hadn't read this last night. I'm sure she read it by this morning. And she'll be putting a rebuttal out. But this is incredible because you can't tell me they're not watching the material that independent media is putting out, and actually what I'm putting out, because I don't believe anybody else out there has been putting out the information about the bird blender. There's been lots of social media about the fact the number of ostriches is definitely declining. And of course, CFIA lies about that in this news release, or whatever the hell this is. The CFIA lies about a number of other things in this document, but they're directly responding to the information that this reporter has been putting out about what's been going on that farm and why people are asking about these blender noises, these grinding noises at night, all these effluents being taken off the farm at 3 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? Why has the population of ostriches dropped to perhaps 200? Where are they going? CFIA is watching this. And you notice they don't say that's ridiculous. They just deny it. Watch this. As ordered by the Supreme Court of Canada, the CFIA continues to have custody of the birds. The birds. Sounds like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. While a decision on the farm's application for leave to appeal is being considered. The Supreme Court of Canada will be issuing its decision on Universal Ostrich Farm's application for leave to appeal on November 6, 2025. The CFI continues to provide feed, water, and bedding with CFI veterinary oversight. Yeah, right. How much feed, how much water are you providing? You're providing no bedding for some of the ostriches. And what kind of veterinary oversight are they getting when there's at least one bird limping around and it's getting no attention? The CFI is covering the cost of purchasing feed and hay from the preferred supplier of the farm. So the taxpayer is picking up the bill. How much are they buying though? This kills me. The CFIA is providing the same amount of feed daily that the owners reported using prior to the CFIA taking custody. Really? Is that why the birds are eating the leaves off the trees and the bark? Because they're starving? Incredible. These people are shameless. Preparations for the care of the ostriches during the winter season are being implemented by the CFIA based on the owner's description of past practices. Within the constraints created by the poor condition of the few facilities on the farm. What horse shit. And the need for operational security to prevent obstruction by individuals visiting or staying at the farm. This is more BS because the CFIA has literally taken over another farm, an adjacent farm, so they can conduct their work in secret and they can get off and on the farm without anybody bothering them, no protesters, no supporters, nobody sees what they're doing. They actually built a road on an adjacent property for this purpose. Notice how they say that. CFIA's estimated number of birds on the farm remains unchanged. And no flock information has been provided. What the hell does that mean? Okay, so their estimated number hasn't changed because they're not changing it. That doesn't mean it hasn't changed. It says their estimated number hasn't changed. They parse their language very carefully, this group. The CFIA has previously published estimates of there being 300 to 330 birds on the farm remains unchanged. Sure, you can publish whatever estimate you want. It doesn't have to be true. There have not been any bird deaths other than the one reported on since October 4th, 2025. I'm not buying that. Additionally, no ostrich body parts or liquefied or mechanically ground up ostrich remains have been removed from the farm or disposed of on the property. The fact that they even addressed that accusation, which I raised in a number of broadcasts last week, and you probably saw them, means they're worried we know the truth. They addressed it. If they thought it was groundless, baseless, idiotic, stupid, science fiction, they would never have even addressed it. By addressing it, they've given life to this accusation. That means it's probably true. When they deny it, it's probably true. So that's what's going on with the CFIA. The farm owners still have not responded to the agent's request for flock records or inventory information. Horseshit. The CFIA is unable to determine whether the difference between the current estimated number of birds on the farm and previous claims by the farm are the result of the flock being overreported or the number of deaths since December 2024 being underreported. This really is the kicker in terms of trying to discredit, debase, and smear Universal Ostrich Farms because they have done incredible scientific research. Katie talks about this all of the time. They have basically done research that the CFIA wants to expropriate. So that's why it's unsubstantiated. Don't look over there, folks. There's nothing to see. They haven't done any good research, and by the way, we'll just take it along, just because even though it's bad, even though it's unsubstantiated, even though it's false, we'll take it anyway. The owners of every avian influenza infected premises are interviewed by the CFI to evaluate the risk of disease spread and determine whether premise will be classified as poultry or non-poultry. Any premises that request an exemption from the snapping up policy is also required to provide information about their operations to assess whether they will meet the exemption criteria. The Universal Ostrich Farms received an exemption from the CFIA on January 2nd, 2025. 8 days later, that exemption was rescinded without explanation. The explanation was the federal government had just purchased 500,000 anti-avian influenza vaccines. H5N1 vaccines from GSK. In the case of the Ostrich Farm, the CFI has not received any evidence of research activities. Why don't you listen to Katie someday? You'll have ample evidence, but you're not listening. Or the development of testing applications developed by the owners or their companies. This is nonsense. For example, the CFI has not received formal documentation of research involving this flock, such as active research trial logs or detailed research protocols. No formal documentation of antibody production and collection from the flock has been provided. Nonsense. The CFI has not received any research to show the flock of ostriches currently under quarantine has a unique capacity to produce eggs with antibodies. I can't stand anymore. I'm sorry. That's it. But these are the lies that this farm has to deal with on a daily basis. The CFIA is worried. They know they have breached the terms of the Supreme Court order. They know they've gone way over the top. They know they've not cared for these birds. They know they've exhibited animal cruelty. They know they've neglected the health and safety of these animals. They know they have put this farm in a financially horrific condition. They know they're wrong. They know they're wrong because they won't test the birds. They know they're wrong because they won't let any independent individual, group, society, analyst across the fencing to count the number of birds that are left. Obviously, what they're saying doesn't add up to the truth.